Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of PAXP Voice. I'm your host, like always, Victor, and as always, with me is Roman. And in today's episode, we have a very special guest by the name of Alexei Ryan. Now, he's a voice actor, very talented, very entertaining guy. Hope you enjoyed the episode because I sure did like having him on the show. So, drum roll. Welcome, Alexei Ryan, to the show.
I guess to start off, the first thing I want to ask you is about your the little baby Alexei. Back when he was just a little kid, and he probably started playing games as a child, I'm assuming, right?
Oh yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that? Like, what were some of the games you liked? What were some of the first games you played? Kind of like the beginnings.
You know, I'm 31 now. So as I was growing up, I saw the progression, the console progression. As I grew, consoles grew. The first console I had was the NES, and I remember I grew up with a single mom. We were poor. You know, the Nintendo was like my babysitter, right? So I definitely got lost in those worlds. I remember when I was 4 years old, we couldn't even afford a Nintendo back then, but we had these neighbors, and they lived downstairs from us, and there was a kid who was like older than me. He was 6, and I thought he was like so big and cool because I was 4, right? And we would all get together, all the kids on the street would get together, and we would try to beat, original Super Mario. And I remember Lakitu, the guy that throws little spiky dudes in the cloud.
Oh yeah. Oh, he's the worst. Yeah. He is the worst.
I know, right? So we thought, we all, like, in our like tiny child brains, we thought he was invincible. We thought he was like, oh, we just, there's nothing we can do about it. I remember it's pretty sad, but like, it's still one of my proudest moments. Is like, as a 4-year-old, I figured out you could jump on top of the coin boxes and then jump on his head and kill him. And I remember that exact moment we did that. It was like, 5 kids in this room. I killed Lakitu. He falls. I dropped the controller. Everyone's jaw is on the floor. It was like silent for like 10 seconds. And then we all start screaming like, oh, yeah! The kid's mom was running down like, oh, are you okay? What's going on? And like, he just beat the cloud guy. So is anyone dying? Or like, no, he beat the cloud guy. And they're like, damn kids. It's just that sort of like excitement, that like overcoming challenges, trying again, having that perseverance. And man, I guess I really miss having friends in the same room. I feel like gaming has gone online, and that's cool, but that sort of camaraderie is really what got me into it, and that feeling of accomplishment. It seemed so much bigger than we were. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, your first major accomplishment as a child, right? I mean, 4 years old. That's a big thing.
Yeah, man. I should put that on a resume,
That's awesome. I felt that same way back when the classic systems, especially in Mega Man. Mega Man is probably one of my favorite classic franchise games. And when I heard the Mega Man 11 will be coming out, 2018, I was just ecstatic because you just get that nostalgia feeling from back in the day of just how you described.
And Mega Man, especially before X, that was like the epitome of like try again. I mean, I feel like games nowadays, they're so much easier. Back in the day, it was just some of those like Battletoads, forget about it.
Dude, I could never get past level 2. It's impossible.
Dude, don't even try the motorbike one. Is that level 3? Oh,
I think that isn't that level 2. I thought that was level 2.
Is that level 2? Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Or maybe that's level 3. Because you start off on a spaceship, right? Like on top of a spaceship.
Dude, it's been so long, dude. I just remember the rage. That's all I remember. Like, yeah. I think I rage quitted before that was a term on Battletoads.
Have you ever got back to play Mario, like that same Mario game, as an adult?
Yeah, and you know what? It is very humbling because if you go back and play some of those skill-based, limited lives games, platformers particularly, man, I am not as good as I was as a kid. and my patience level is definitely way less. And I just feel like I die a couple times. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go play like a story game from Telltale where I can't lose, And I don't know. I think it's when you're a kid, it's like that's what you have. You can't just like, especially back in the day, we couldn't go online. You can't go buy something new. It's like, well, you got your video game, or you can go outside, and like that was an easy choice for me.
Yeah, who wants to go outside, right?
Yeah, nature.
So, okay, you are now a voice actor, and you specialize in indie games. As a kid, is that something you kind of had an idea that you wanted to be, or is it something that you kind of fell into as an adult?
Yes and no at the same time. I was going through my old yearbooks back in the day, and I found my 5th grade yearbook, and it was said, where do you want to be in 20 years? And funny enough, it's like 21 years later. It said, I want to work for Nintendo, right? And then it said, and I want to be an actor, right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's crazy how now, like, I work in the video game industry and I'm doing acting. But as a kid, I grew up like I said, my Nintendo was my babysitter. Well, so were movies, So I got really, really into characters. My hero back then, and still in many respects now, is Jim Carrey.
Oh man, yeah, I love Jim Carrey. I love that guy.
Yeah,
dude.
right. I mean,
I just watched Ace Ventura last night, and he was just a great comedian, comedic actor.
Yeah, and the physicality and just over the topness that was like somehow believable. And it's like, think about any of the old Jim Carrey movies, right? Like Mask, Ace Ventura, Cable Guy, Liar, whatever. Imagine anyone else playing those roles.
Oh, you can't.
You can't.
He made
that's what really inspired me, Yeah. And so also, like, I was, like I said, I was like a little kind of a poor kid, was a shy kid, and I was relating more to characters than I was to other children or adults. And so I found this, introverted world that I got really excited about. And when I was in 5th grade, we did a school play. And I'd never thought of it before. And we did something we called it Fractured Fairy Tales, where we took fairy tales and we made them a little bit silly, right? Mm-hmm. And I was the shy kid, and we did auditions and stuff like that, and I was so nervous. And the teacher was like, you know what, let's just give you this role. I ended up playing like the 3 Billy Goats Gruff, and there's like a troll under the bridge. Mm-hmm. That whole story.
Yeah.
Well, like in this version, the troll was like a really, really nice guy, right? And like his tagline, and the goats were really mean. His tagline was like, "Pardon me, do you have any Grey Poupon?" And it was just so dumb. But like, I really got into that character, and all of a sudden, it was like the last day of elementary school. All of a sudden, like, I was making everybody laugh. I was getting so much attention, and it was a very, very similar feeling to like when I was 4, and I got all that positive validation for beating Lakitu. Mm-hmm. So I was like, this is really what I got to do. Maybe I'm not so good at, conversation and talking to people, but I can make people laugh. So that's what I had wanted to do. That continued to be my dream. I went to college for it. I went and did the whole Hollywood thing, and then I sort of realized that I didn't want to be a big movie star. I didn't really want that kind of attention. And I had this opportunity to go work in Singapore at a theme park doing voices. And I said, I'm going to do that. And I spent 3 years traveling around, and I realized, what? I really want to do this acting thing, but I want to do it on my own terms, and I want to do the voice aspect of it. And hell, I really want to be in games. So I came back to the US, I pursued a career in gaming, and it's just been history ever since, and it's cool to do things on your own terms, you know what I mean? And hell, I mean, if some big game company's like, well, will you do this on our terms? I'd be like, oh yeah, probably. But for now, right? For now, it's a lot of fun, and it's hard work, but I think my 10-year-old self will be proud,
Absolutely.
Did you have any education beyond, the fourth grade play? Like, or, I mean, like anything like as far as like.
No, I was a fourth grade dropout, bro.
I'm sorry, I meant education, specifically in video games or voice acting.
No, I feel like being a dropout is cool now because it's like everyone is like, I was a dropout and I like started my company and I got like a bajillion dollars. Like,
exactly,
wasn't cool back then. Yeah, it was when I was in fourth grade. I dropped out, started a company. No, I did plays all through, middle school, high school, lots of cheesy musicals and stuff like that. And then I went to college. I got a degree in acting. And as useless as that may sound, it actually taught me a lot about the business of entertainment, taught me a lot about, things that you might overlook just looking at a page. And I'm seeing it now, like, there's a lot of people that want to get into voice acting and have never done acting before. And there's a lot of hurdles that they need to overcome that I'm lucky enough that I don't have to anymore. Like, it just sort of comes naturally. And so that's just because I put in the time ahead of time. But I will say, there was a time in my life where I was like, would rest on my laurels and like, well, I'm just so good, like I have training and like someone will, come find how great I am and give me $1 million. No, man. I know people that like my teacher, he didn't start till he was in his 40s and he had no acting training whatsoever, but he busted his butt, man. He did all this training. He did tons of practice. He hustled and now he's very, very successful. So just goes to show it doesn't really matter if you're, have the formal education. If you just have education of any kind, make it yourself, you're going to go far, And so I'm trying to catch up to him because there was definitely a couple of years in my life where I was like, well, I don't need to learn anymore. I already know everything. So, yeah, definitely don't do that, kids. Don't assume that college is going to teach you everything. You gotta make your own learning materials. So that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the things you said just a second ago was that people who didn't have an education in acting, it's easy for them to overlook something on a page when they're looking. I'm assuming at like a script, right? Can you give me an example of like what you're talking about? Because I honestly have no experience in acting at all. So to me, this is all foreign.
Totally. I think the biggest mistake, just on the acting side, not the business side, but the actual craft side that new actors make, is they think that they have to play an emotion. And oftentimes a director and we see this a lot actually in the video game world, we have people casting voice actors who, their whole experience is like in production. They've not really worked with actors that much on a creative level, just sort of on like a contract level. So you have people directing you as well who are saying, I need you to be more angry, right? Or can you be more sad? Or can you be more funny? And when you do that, you end up getting really, really fake sounding, really disingenuine. Is that a word? Disingenuine?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Non-authentic sounding performance. Mm-hmm. And so the way you overcome that is you look at the page, you look at the script. If you can read the whole thing, if you can get background on the character, even better. But the stereotypical question that every actor has to ask is, what is my motivation, right? What's my character's motivation? What am I trying to get out of this scene? With every line that you say and every word that you say, you have to be going for that goal. Your motivation is, for instance, okay, I am a father and my children are starving, but I need to convince this cop that I stole the bread for my starving children. And I need them to take pity on me, right?
That's a lot of background.
It's a dramatic scene. But if the director says, "Oh, be sad," or be pathetic, it's not going to sound real. It's going to be like, "Oh, excuse me, sir," right? But instead, you go, okay, your motivation is to not get arrested so that you can feed your child. Okay, and then what's your goal, right? How are you going to get that goal? You are going to plead with him. You're going to appeal to his humanity, whatever. And that's when you see really, really good performances, is on like a nanosecond basis, they're constantly changing their motivation, their goals, their actions to get to that motivation. And then it seems really real. I think a good actor on, any movie, or if you go see plays, you kind of forget that you're in a play or a movie, right? We call that suspending disbelief, and that's because if the actor's good, then they are truly feeling that and they're truly believing it because they're going after that motivation. So that's something that I've cultivated and I've learned, and you can do that like even in silly things, like sometimes in games the line is just like attack or die or make a death sound. And you can just phone that in and speak, oh, die you. But if you have all those motivations underneath it, then even the average person is going to be able to discern that is a good performance, and there's something real about it that's going to make them want to listen again.
Mm-hmm.
Do you get a lot of background on a character for a video game?
No. Uh-huh. And
what typically would you get? Let's say like somebody is like, oh hey, here's a game about a space marine. Like what kind of background would you think you'd typically get for that?
It's really going to depend on if I have access to the writer, if I have access to the creator. Sometimes I don't even have access to a director. Sometimes, actually, most of what I do, because my studio is like a la carte, that's sort of my business model right now, is you send me something, I'll record it, edit it, master it, send it back to you. So I don't even have live feedback. So I have to make those things up. Now, a lot of times, if a client hires me, they don't exactly know what they want. They just want it to be good. And so I will make choices on my own that I think fit the scene. And if they don't like it, then hopefully I can have a conversation with them. And I don't need to get into the nitty gritty with them, like, what's my motivation, right? That's my job, right? I mean, that's like the stereotypical like diva actor. It's like, oh, what's my motivation? Like, that's not their job. Right? Their job is they want it to be believable and good. So I just try to suss out what they really want. So for instance, a lot of times, they'll just be like, okay, here are the lines. Like one of the most recent games I did, little tiny mobile game, and the character was some little cartoon chef, right? And the guy who hired me, really cool guy, repeat business, and he's learned that he can just trust me to make something up. So he's like, I just have the chef guy, whatever, just, I don't know, make him like Italian or something. I was like, hold on. So I looked at the game. There's no backstory really, but you got to create something. You can't just be like, I'm going to be an Italian dude that has no substance whatsoever. So I thought, you know what? I want to make him, it's for kids, right? I want to make him kind of funny. The game is like shooting chocolate and caramel sauce on pastries or something, and I'm like, I want to make it fun. I want to make it silly. So I created this. I made in French because that was just more fun for me. And chocolate sauce. Yes. I just gave him this like personality of like he has an addiction to sweets, and he just loves pastries so much he can't get enough chocolate sauce. He can't get enough caramel sauce, and every time you hit the donut right with the caramel sauce, he's so excited because he gets to get more sugar and calories, and he's, kind of saucy, and he's sassy, and he's kind of like, look at me, attention kind of guy. And all that was just built on a backstory that I created for him. And no one really needs to know that backstory for it to be compelling, but they hear this character and they go, wow, that guy's hilarious, or that guy's so weird, and he loved it, and that game's gonna come out soon. I think, hopefully this month it'll come out.
What's it called?
It's called I think it was called like Dancing Chef or Music Chef or something. I'll send it to you guys.
Yeah, let's check it out.
Hopefully by the time this releases, you can link it or whatever.
Nice.
But it's just little things like that, and that's what I have fun with, because I'm at the point now where I would rather do something like that where I can make it up than, someone being really, really, really nitpicky and specific. That's still cool, but it's a lot harder, I'm sort of like the shoot from the hip guy. Like, I know you sent me the questions for this interview ahead of time. I was like, I can't memorize all that stuff. Let's just wing it. So
that's better. I think that's totally better.
Yeah, it's better.
It's more natural.
Yeah, and that's what's fun about it. Just kind of trusting that as long as you're having fun with it, it's everyone that's listening or watching it is going to have fun too.
Yeah. So that kind of goes. I went scrolling through your Twitter account at Alexei Ryan, and about a couple months back, I noticed you posted something about doing the voice for Walder Frey in the Lego Game of Thrones adaptation.
Oh, yeah.
And that kind of goes against what you just said. I mean, not against, but it's like you have all this content of a backstory for him. How did that, did that make the role, or do you think it'll make the role easier for you? Or when you're in that kind of situation, how do you pick the role, or how do you decide how the role is going to be if you want it to be unique and separate from what we already see, like in the show or in the books or something like that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I like to think that every person has more of a leaning towards a right brain or a left brain. And I think even in acting or performance, that's the case. So I guess right brain's more creative, right? I'm the kind of guy that loves to make stuff up and improvise and go by the seat of my pants. Impressions are the complete opposite of that. I feel like impressionists are very, they know how to study down to the minute detail of how to do someone's voice, how to do their mannerisms. And impressions are tough for me. I had one of my gigs, the gig I did in Singapore, was an impression. And I didn't get it right away. I had to practice it. I really had to study for it. And so for the Walder Frey thing, it's not like the official Lego movie. If it was, I wouldn't even be able to talk about it. But it's I had to take his impression, right, and then sort of morph it into the medium that it's in. It's Lego, so it has to be a little bit silly, right? Let's think about the Christopher Nolan, Christian Bale Batman, right? And Lego Batman. They're definitely
similar. No.
Yeah, right. Did you see that movie? Did you see Lego Batman?
No, not the Lego Batman one.
Oh my god, dude!
Was it good? I haven't seen it either.
Dude, stop the interview. Go watch it now.
Hit the pause button.
Let's play it now while we're doing the interview.
It's basically like if you've seen any spoof of Batman at all. Yeah, that's what it is.
I think I recall seeing the trailer, and they did a little bit of the skits of his voice, and I can understand what you're saying. It was so spoofy of the just the Dark Knight, itself.
Exactly, man. And so I think when you combine those two together, I think it's tough, right? But the first step was nail the impression as best as I could I forget that actor's name is, but he really has this sort of, and it's not just about the voice itself, it's his attitude. Why do we hate him, right? Why do we hate Walder Frey? He does terrible stuff, but why does he do terrible stuff? Because he hates himself, right? He's insecure. All that stuff has to be in there, But what I always say is whenever you play a character, you don't judge them, right? No villain thinks that they're the villain. They always think that they're right. So I take that aspect and I go, okay, he's this sleazy, disgusting character. Why is he that way? And then how can we caricaturize it? How can we make it silly and off the wall? So hopefully when it comes out in several months from now, you'll be able to hear it. It's like we're taking that sleazy element and that very undeserved, entitled, cocky element of the character, but making it over the top. And because it's an animation, because it's Lego, because it has that feel to it, it becomes a funny character rather than a detestable character. And it wouldn't be so compelling if we didn't have that reality under it. We didn't have that impression under it. Just like the Lego Batman, he's funny, not just because I'm Batman, hey. It's funny because
like an orc.
we know the real Batman. We know the real Batman is like that. And so what part of his character is so recognizable that we can just blow it out of the water and go over the top with it. So it's a long answer, but yeah, if you're going to do that, take the impression and twist it, tailor it to the medium and the platform itself.
That's amazing. Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
So
yeah, of course, dude.
Knowing that you can do impersonations, right? Could you do any of the popular video game characters like Master Chief?
Oh man, you know what? I would have to practice that, but Master Chief is one of those that's like the actor's real voice is very, very close to the character himself, and there's a lot of subtleties there. When you let an actor do something that's close to their real voice, and not like over the top sort of thing, there's things about that person, that actor themselves, that comes through. And so if I was going to venture to do a good Master Chief impression, I would want to study the actor and make sure I have all his mannerisms down, and then put the sort of Master Chief affectation on top of it. Mm-hmm. So the short answer is no, I'm not ready.
Oh man. Okay, let me challenge you further.
You're asking too much, Roman.
Is there one you can give us now? Is there like one major game character you can give us now?
You know, it's not a game character, but I had 2 years of practice doing. It was my gig in Singapore. I did Donkey from Shrek.
So. Oh, okay. I'm totally down to hear that.
Yeah. Like, man, I don't know if I should do this. It'd be crazy if I was talking like Donkey up in this interview here. I mean, I'm trying to press on this iPhone and I only got a hoof, man. I can't touch the button with it, just hooves, man. Oh man, Dragon's calling me. Man, I like them big girls. I'll tell you something.
Oh my god, that was so good. That was perfect.
Was amazing. Holy
Thanks,
shit.
Dude.
Can you get Eddie Murphy? Is Eddie Murphy in the room with you?
Yeah, dude, he's hanging out right here, you know, he's chilling, he's in retirement.
Oh, man.
Can you do the rest of the interview this way?
just talk like that. Man, and that's one of those things, man, like when people find out that's what I did, it's like the go-to party trick. And like I've heard some voice actors, some celebrities, whatever, like they're like, oh, I hate when like someone asks me to do the thing. I'm like, but dude, like you got to do it. Like you're part of being like in the public eye or being a performer, right? Is like to make people happy and make people laugh. And like, if you can do that on a daily basis, like do it, you know? So anytime I don't like flaunt it. Like, hey, did you know, like I did the voice, you know, it's like, no, like if someone finds out, like I'll do it, you know, there've definitely been some, you know, some drunken evenings where it's like I'm talking like Eddie Murphy the whole night. But to be fair, I don't talk like Eddie Murphy. It's Donkey, and you know, I same thing. Like, of course, you want to get the actor who played. If you're doing an impression, you want to get the actor who played it. You want to get their mannerisms. But more important than that, like their mannerisms are what feed the character. And so, you know, if you ask me, can you do an Eddie Murphy voice? I would say no. But I was like, can you do a Donkey voice? Like, yeah. And if you watch Eddie Murphy's interviews of talking about how he found the Donkey voice, I won't say it here, but he's like, oh, I gave it a little bit of lisp, but I wanted it to be a little bit flamboyant, and that was his inspiration for the character. So and at the same time, when I'm thinking about doing that voice, I'm not thinking about like Eddie Murphy's motivations and his life, and I don't really know much about him. But hell, I know a lot about Donkey, and I know about his marital life. And at one point, I memorized all the names of his kids, like Banana and Peanut. So, like, it's those sorts of things that like make it real. Like when you know all that stuff about the character, people are like, "Whoa, that's good," and it's not about perfecting the voice because you know the character. Oh, so There you go, special treat.
So you ever have like I would say like a wild party night? You go out drinking all night. You find some beautiful girl. You bring her back home, and out of nowhere, as things get heated, you just start breaking out the Eddie Murphy voice.
Oh yeah, well of course that's the go-to, obviously. I mean, I put that on my dating profiles. It's like there's not even a picture of me.
Oh my god!
It's like that big smiling donkey picture, you know, talking about parfaits all day.
That actually might work. You know, that actually might work. A girl might see you have a sense of humor.
What? You know what? I don't doubt it, dude. I saw this one, like, I don't know, this is a tangent, but I saw, what was his name? Andre something. He's like comedian with like big curly hair. He was like doing something with his Tinder profile. They were messing with him and Hannibal Buress were messing with each other's Tinder profile. And they put a picture of Andre like basically on the toilet taking a dump. And on his like main Tinder profile, and there's like a picture of him like bursting in on him taking a dump. He's like trying to close the door and he looks all distressed. And they made it his main Tinder profile. The guy's like, oh man, this is gonna suck. The girls loved it, man. Like they were just like swiping on that thing, you know. And I think that just goes to show, man, like people just want to have a good time. People want to have fun. Humor is just makes people feel at ease. So yeah, man, don't take anything too seriously, and you know, you'll be happy for it, and so everyone else around you.
Okay, so circling back for a sec, let's say you're just getting out of college, right, from the acting, and you're trying to find your way into the video game industry. How did you actually carve a path for yourself? I know there's a lot of people out there who struggle, right? A lot of kids who graduate from some kind of video game design school or something, and they just can't find their way in. How did you get your foot in the door?
Dude, that is an excellent question, and it's one of those catch-22 things. And I think, God, man, I'm the worst procrastinator in the world. I delayed doing what I really wanted to do for years. And that's because I just waited for the quote right moment. I waited for someone to notice me, or I waited for someone else to give me an opportunity, or, oh, that opportunity is too small. I don't want to start there. I want to have a good reputation. And I think how I got out of that mindset is kind of in the same way it is in LA and Hollywood is, the myth of like someone walking into a coffee shop and like noticing you and giving you a star role is so rare, right? You have to create those opportunities for yourself. And I remember back in the day in LA, it was like I was doing student films, right? I was doing stuff for free. And, I didn't make it big in Hollywood, and I realized that wasn't really what I wanted to do anyway. But that led to other things. That led to things that paid. That led to things that got me some notoriety in that place back then. And so I used that method in the games world. Like I said, I went to Asia. I was gone in Asia for 3 years. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I decided I wanted to get into video games. I didn't know how. I knew I wanted to do voices, but there's no full-time voice actor job. You got to gig to gig with that. So I did probably like what everyone else does when they start out is I just went online. I went on Indeed and LinkedIn and all this and that stuff. And I just looked for job openings. And I applied, and I wrote really detailed cover letters. I still have a folder in my Drive account that's like just cover letters. I like custom wrote a cover letter to every video game company under the sun, from like AAA to like, Farmville or whatever, like anything, Right. And it's just like, no.
But you actually heard back then, huh? Because I know a lot of people don't even hear back. Like you're just in a void.
Oh God, yeah, man. I mean, that's everybody. I mean, hell, that doesn't matter how experienced you are. You're still gonna get the void. I think you're gonna get the void more often than not. But the mistake that I made was I thought that, oh well, as long as I just keep applying, right? Mm-hmm. Someone will look at me and give me a chance, And that's so wrong because, first of all, you're among like hundreds, if not thousands of people applying. And unless you have like something on paper that just like stands out, like some experience that's like highly relevant, chances are they're not going to even get back to you, because those recruiters and whatever, they're so busy, and it's not like they're looking at your resume and going, oh, this guy sucks.
Are you sure they're not doing that? Because sometimes it feels that way.
I mean, sometimes, maybe, I don't know. But like, I don't think they have time for that, man. I really don't think they have time to like judge you harshly. It's just like, you gotta grab their attention. And so what I did was I go, okay, well, would I hire me? I'm like, probably not. Oh, I'm such a great guy. Well, they don't need to hire a great guy. They need to hire someone who can do the job. And they don't want to teach that person how to do the job. So I was like, what else is, I'm a big proponent of like, when you help yourself, people want to help you. So if you're just, out there, oh, please help me. Oh, the world's so hard. The world's so tough. Yeah, it is. But no one really wants to help you when you do that. So I figured, I got to help myself and get the momentum going and get the excitement going, and then something will happen. And sure enough, it did. And it was a hard road, man. So what I did was I went on Craigslist, and I was like, I need to do some sort of game. I found on Craigslist, like, some guy in, like, some sort of like rundown house was like building a game out of Unity in his garage. It was like some space shooter game, and literally it was like him and some other guy, and they had like written this like space shooter game, and they didn't know what they were doing. They were teaching themselves Unity, and they're like, hey, we're looking for more people to collaborate with. And I said, hey, I'm this sort of creative guy, like, and I applied the acting. I used what I had, right? I did not have a design background. I did not have experience programming. I did not have all these things that these big companies wanted. But this opportunity, they were like, hey, we're open, because this is a volunteer thing. We're open to people joining us. What do you have to offer? I used what I had. What I had was my acting experience and my ability to create characters. So I said, hey, this is what I do, and I would love to like create a cool character for your game. And I ended up coming up with like this like really pompous like space captain guy. He's like, oh yes, hey ladies. Like it was funny because I hadn't even seen Futurama at that point.
I was just gonna mention that.
Yeah,
Zap Brannigan or whatever his name is.
That sounds like Zap Brannigan. But whatever. Everything is copied by something, in some way. But anyway, I created this thing. They thought it was hilarious. We wrote this little story, and not only did it get me some experience, that was the small part. The big part was I got confidence in myself that I could dive into something and make something out of nothing. And I created that opportunity for myself, and the game went nowhere. I don't even think it like sold. I don't even know if they published it. Like, it kind of fell apart. But I put that on my resume, and I had a story to tell. And I was searching for jobs, like whatever I could do. And I wasn't doing voiceover then. I still had the mentality, ironically enough, I still had the mentality of like, well, someone will notice me. I need to wait to do my demo, and it's just, I'm not ready. But I use the mentality to get an office job, day job. It was this little tiny recruiting agency, and they had all their clients were gaming clients, and they were small, very, very, very hard work, paid nothing. But they were like, hey, we don't normally hire people without experience, but we saw that you like made this little Android game and that you have an interest in games, and, you're an actor, so you must be extroverted. Haha, they don't know I'm an introvert and I hide at home. But, they gave me a chance because I showed that I was making efforts to get into games. I did that for 2 years. Oh man, I busted my butt. Like I lost hair, but like because I did that, I was able to meet people, and I met so many people in the game industry, being that annoying recruiter guy who's calling people, I never call people, but emailing people, and I every person I talked to, I tried to not make it about the sale or I just was like, this is a person who is in an industry that I want to be in. And so I'm going to give them not only respect, but I'm going to show my interest in them, and I'm going to ask them questions. I'm going to use my day job to supplement what I really want to do. And I made some great friends from, candidates that I talked to. And that led me to start, I worked at this little indie company, for a while, Double Fine, awesome, like great reputation. And I only got to work with them because I was so cool with a candidate that I met. And then that led to, what I'm working on now. And that gave me the confidence to be like, hey, I can start my voiceover thing now. Like, I know people. I know that I can meet people. I know that I can talk to people. I know that I provide value, and I know I can create something from nothing. And I have a good day job now. And I also do the voiceover stuff at the same time. And it's just because I didn't wait, right? When I decided to pull the trigger on this thing, right? I use this opportunity of the day job to make friends, make connections, and build that confidence. And then now, like, my resume, if I moved to the next day job, it supports me. I don't have 0 years experience. And if I decide to stop the day job and go full time into the voice acting thing too, I have those friends. I have those connections and the network that I've built just out of purely being interested. So the short answer is, if you're trying to break into the game industry or any industry, just do it, right? Find something and make friends, because people don't hire off a resume. People hire people that they like and are recommended by people that they like. And the game industry especially is so small. If you make friends, you don't have to like be fake best friends with everybody. But if you make an impression on somebody by just showing interest in them, interest in their career. I mean, heck, you guys called me up. Who am I? But, you guys in particular, like you're interviewing, but I think the listeners can take, a page out of your book and go, all right, how can I show my interest in people that are doing things that I want to do with no agenda whatsoever? I'm not expecting them to get me a job. I'm not expecting them. It's just, I want to ask them questions. I want to understand what makes them tick. I want to understand why they're doing what they're doing. And you know what? A lot of people are happy to talk about it and happy to give you advice, as long as, you're honest about it and there's no hidden agenda under there. So I'd say volunteer. If you can't find a volunteer opportunity, make something yourself. Unity, stuff like that. That's really easy to learn comparatively to trying to learn how to C++ code from scratch. Yeah. There's also a great, for like narrative design. If you're more of a writer, download or go to Twine. Twine is a really cool story mapping program, and it's like a choose your own adventure story program. Make some text-based games on that. If you're an artist, just draw every day. Get better and better and better. Make things for yourself, put it online, share it, ask people's opinion on it, and engage with other people's efforts to get themselves out there. And you'll start noticing that your network's going to grow exponentially. And because you are helping yourself, everyone's going to want to help you.
Jeez.
So go out and do it. Make something for yourself. If no one's offering it to you, make it yourself, dude. And I guarantee you, you fail a couple times, and then you make that one thing that gets a lot of attention, all of a sudden people are going to be asking you for advice. And you're going to be saying, well, I didn't see an opportunity for myself, so I made it. That's not gonna pay for the bills necessarily. Do what you got to do, man.
Yeah.
Sweep floors if you gotta, but don't forget why you're here. Don't forget what the true purpose of you sweeping those floors is. It's to sustain this time you're in now until you can, well, not until, while you build your dream, because your dream is never done until you die. You're always going to be building on it. So don't wait, man. Do not wait. Crap. I need to not wait. I need to go do something right now, So
yeah,
just have that fire, dude. And I know, Roman, you and I had talked a little bit, and you were saying how you really wanted to get into it, and you were talking about being busy. And
absolutely.
Yeah, man. And like, you were doing it. Like, look, you're running a podcast, man, and you don't know where this is gonna go, but you're doing it. And like, props to you, props to Victor. So just keep doing what you're doing. Make stuff for yourself.
I feel like we should change the name of this to PAXP Inspirational Speeches or How to Get a Job.
Hey, man.
That was really good. That was
a
really, really detailed, well thought out answer.
That motivated me to start working on some modeling projects after this podcast is over.
I'm writing a cover letter right now.
3D modeling?
Yeah, I primarily focus in 3D modeling.
Sweet, man. Yeah, do it, man, and share it. Just share it online, Like, I know most artists will say, most artists are never like truly satisfied with their work. They're like, this is not. But who said it? Someone wiser than me said, with art, it's never done. It's just good enough. And find that point, man, and share. And hey, and you guys are building a platform for yourself. So naturally, as this picks up, people are going to start showing interest in all facets of your life. So. And everyone else on the show and all this and that, and you engage the community and they'll be able to share too, and it'll just be one big happy family of everyone pursuing their dreams.
Okay, so I'm gonna refocus this just a little bit.
Yeah.
Back to this first game that you worked on in the garage with the two guys that were teaching themselves Unity. You said that you were kind of working on the story, right, for this thing, the characters. Is that when you first got into video game writing?
I wouldn't say I've ever really fully gotten into it. I mean, very, very amateur at it. I did writing back in college. I've always been a storyteller, and that's an interest of mine. But yeah, that was like my first sort of toe in the water with writing. But I did have an opportunity to do some writing on this mobile game, and it's for kids, and I don't know how much I can say, but it's just like a game for kids. It was about like flying airplanes and like monkeys and stuff like that. And one of my voiceover clients was like, "Hey, I saw on your website that you do writing." Well, I mean, how much writing have I really done? But I put it on there, right? I put myself out there. I declared that I did this. Someone noticed it, and he said, "Well, I'll give you a shot. Like, you want to write the script for this game?" I was like, "Sure." And it wasn't like, I didn't get rich off of it, but that wasn't the point. The point is, I challenged myself, and I had a chance to do it. And it was hard because it wasn't something that came naturally to me through years and years of practice like voices or acting did. But I went and did it. And so now, like, you guys noticed it, right? So now that's the next step. If I really want to pursue writing, I can, because I've proven that I can do it. I have samples to show. And so, yeah, to answer your question, yeah, it kind of did start there. But I didn't really get to work on an official game that would launch until much later. And that's just because I allowed myself the opportunity to do that. I just said on my website I did it, and someone gave me a shot because, like we were talking about earlier, I had already proven that, we had a good relationship. We'd already worked together. And like I said before, people hire people that they like. People hire people that are familiar or are referred through someone familiar. And so then I got that chance. And so if anyone else is looking to do that, just find any opportunity you can, and it'll just snowball from there.
Would you be able to kind of walk us through what the writing process is like? So, for instance, if you're working on a game, like from start to finish, how do you even start a story? Like where do you go? Do you first think about the characters? Do you think about the setting? How does that work in your head?
Well, with I'm not an expert writer, so this is going to be my amateur answer.
I think you're selling yourself short.
Right. No. I mean, I'm not saying I'm a bad writer. I'm just saying I'm not an expert writer, right? I haven't done as much. But the way I went about it is, the client, he had an outline. He had the characters. He had sketches of the characters. So in my voice actor brain, I love seeing sketches of characters because the artist can inform you even without knowing their idea for the character, the way they stand, the facial expressions, that sort of thing. So we had a couple characters sketches to go off of. So I had an idea of what they wanted the personality to be. Then he told me a little bit about some of the levels that they would be going through. And so I had a better idea. So what I did was I broke it down by the levels, and I wrote an outline, and of course had to get it approved. And I said, okay, what's the character arc? Any writer will tell you that the characters have to have an arc. They have to be, especially the main character, has to be different at the end from when they started. I said, okay, where do we want this character to end up? This character. Okay, I got that. Once I had the beginning and the end, the middle just sort of filled itself. And I can't say too much about it, but the main character was sort of being overlooked and being sort of pigeonholed into her role in the society and never really got a chance. And there was this kind of like pompous bully character who everyone loved. And then there was this sort of like, bumbling sidekick type character who, didn't have a lot of confidence. And so by the end, the main character, she got all the recognition and fame. The sidekick character, he also got recognition and fame, and he was valued. And then the bully guy at the end, he was sort of exposed for being a coward. And it's a very simple archetypical arc, but when you know where to end up, then it's sort of your own creative way of figuring out how to get there and showing that piece by piece, foreshadowing a little bit of, like the bully character, he got startled in the beginning by something. And that's a little baby foreshadowing of later on, he totally chickens out when the big bad guy shows up. And of course, because it was a kid's game, everyone was friends at the end, everyone, even the bully guy was friends at the end. But I think if you can, who the characters are. Oh, when I was in college, Edward Albee came to our school, and I don't know if you know who he is, but he's a very famous playwright. And something he said, it always stuck with me. Our professors were like, oh, Mr. Albee, like, please tell me, how do you write your plays? How do you discern your plot? And he goes, well, I figure out who the characters are first. I know who they are. Then I put those characters in a situation, and then it writes itself. And of course, in my very amateur way, I did the same thing. Defined the characters, I put them in a situation. Of course, I consulted with the client where I wanted them to end up. But I think my acting background helped with that because I was able to know the characters really well. And I think any book that you read that is like really compelling, that author knows the characters front to back. And it's not so much about the plot that's exciting. It's the characters that you fall in love with, right? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I would say character first.
Okay.
I'm a team character writer.
Do you feel that the main character in this story that you wrote is kind of like an echo of your own life as you grew in your professional career?
Oh wow!
Because I got a little bit of that as you were talking about her.
Deep. Let's see. Was I a bully? And then I
no, not the bully. The main girl, like that person.
Yeah, I think with everybody though.
I think we love stories. I mean, most stories are not original, you know, like they all follow a certain pattern. And I think we all love the character that kind of sucks at the beginning, doesn't know what they're doing at the beginning, is unappreciated, misunderstood in the beginning, and then they get a chance to prove their worth, and then in the end everyone loves them, or they get whatever they want, and you know, they help people and whatever. So yeah, absolutely, man. And I think I'm still definitely on that journey. I definitely have, you know, my fair share of insecurities and fair share of things that I still want to accomplish. But I think that's all of us, man. And I think we have to be the main character in our own story. And if you feel like you're a sidekick in someone else's story, then, you know, you're going to be pretty dissatisfied in your life, you know, and you're going to feel like you're not good enough to do things. And I think if you think about yourself as, okay, if you're going through hard times or you're not getting what you want, be like, all right, this is the beginning of my arc. I mean, you could be 78, still the beginning of my arc, right? You know, figure out who you want to be at the end, you know, who you want to be at the end of the arc, and fill in the middle, and you'll get there somehow, you know?
Man, that's good. Your answers are really good. Are you sure you didn't practice these ahead of time?
No, dude. Man, I just ramble.
So let's say like some big AAA company comes to you. Let's say you could choose one, right? If you had a choice of any company to work on any big existing AAA game, what game would you pick and why? And what would you add to it that's unique to the character?
Man, that's such a hard question.
That's a loaded question.
It is a loaded question.
Do we got another hour for that?
Dude, I don't know, man. You know, what I can say is I love creating new things. So my cop-out answer would be I would want to work on something that's never been done before.
No.
But I know that's not the right answer.
We won't take that.
You know what? I love the voice acting that I've really been impressed by is pretty much anything from Telltale. You know, their games, you know, they're not AAA games, and they're not like skill-based games or anything like that, really. They're basically choose your own adventure.
They're storytelling games.
Yeah, they tell tales. You know. They're like, oh, a little bit on the nose there. But I love those games. And, you know, one of my voiceover mentors, he's the voice. I don't know if you played Wolf Among Us, but he's the voice Big B Wolf, and he's the guy who trained me. And you know, I just love, because those characters are so deep, and even though they're fantasy, they're so human. And oh man, I would love to do a Telltale game.
I think that's actually the best one. The Wolf Among Us.
Yeah, it's so unique, isn't it?
That was a really good one.
Yeah. Of course, then, you know, the other answer is sometimes you just love just the brash, ridiculous stuff. Like, if I could be an orc in Shadow of Mordor, I would just be so stoked. Just because you don't have to hold anything back with that, you know what I mean?
Can you bust out an orc line for us?
Oh God. Okay. Like, oh, I smell some man flesh. Delicious. Oh, I think this is a fat one.
Oh, brilliant!
You are
just
amazing.
Brilliant.
Oh my gosh.
We love. And that's another thing. It's like we love the orcs because like they are caricatures. They're so ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, they're evil and terrible, but like they're just like that sort of, we can kind of relate to just being that lazy, sloppy, whatever. Like, we love that, you know. And selfishness is very, very funny in you know, in games, movies, shows, whatever. And orcs are like the most selfish, ridiculous, you know, fictional race of creatures. And who doesn't love, at least, you know, in Lord of the Rings lore, they are. And who doesn't love that, man? Who doesn't want to just sort of like embrace that inner, you know, selfish a-hole sort of thing, you know? And I love it.
That was great.
So as we close, I have really just two more questions for you. The first one, of course, is the obligatory Xbox versus PlayStation. If somebody put a gun, let's say I put a gun to your head, right, figuratively, and I made you choose between PlayStation and Xbox, which would you go with?
Oh man, I thought I was gonna get, because you had mentioned this like at the beginning that you guys have that rivalry. And I was like, I'm gonna get out of it by saying PC.
Nope. There is one right answer and one wrong answer.
There's a gun involved.
Okay. So, I may be legally obligated to pick one due to my day job, but the short answer is I have an Xbox One. I do not have a PlayStation of any kind.
Beautiful.
However, before I started working there, I've been a Nintendo loyalist, but before I started working there, I was all Team PlayStation because basically stuff like Last of Us, like that.
The walking simulator?
Dude, that. What? Goat simulator?
No, the walking. Where all you do is walk. You just walk around in The Last of Us. You do nothing else.
Yeah, well, walking simulator. But like, hey, good acting in walking simulator, right?
Oh, amazing acting. The storyline was bar none. Probably one of the best in any game I've ever played.
Hey, what was that?
The storyline was, I think, better than just about any game I've ever played. Was in The Last of Us.
Oh yeah, dude. And also, like, I think I had like a prejudice against Xbox from like when I was really young, because, you know, it was always like Nintendo versus Sega, and then it was like Nintendo versus PlayStation. And then Sega went away, and 3 people cried. And then, you know, and then it was like, I was just used to that dichotomy, like Pepsi or Coke sort of thing. And then Xbox comes around, and I was like, who is this like console trying to like pretend to be cool? Like it's only between Nintendo and one other thing. And I, you know, and of course, like Microsoft at the time, like in my teenage brain was like, oh, they're just a software company. Like they don't know anything about games. And so I had that prejudice for the longest time.
They still don't.
Oh my God.
Hey, I will not comment on that. But hey, Halo's pretty rad. You gotta admit.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I love Halo. Yeah, who can't?
But I would say, man, like at this point, I think we're the whole like console exclusivity thing. I think we're gonna getting away from that. That's my prediction. And I will say, Xbox One X, dude, like the power that thing has, like PlayStation, you got to catch up, brother. You know, that is just for the price range too. Like it's insane. Like the graphics you can have. So short answer is I'm now an Xbox guy.
We can stop there. You're now an Xbox guy.
You say I have good answers, man, but my answers are just long. That's why you think they're good. That's all it is.
Oh, okay. So
that's me like a yes or no question at this point.
Yeah. So you just said something about predictions, and that brought up another thing I noticed on your Twitter account where you're predicting that it'll be Jaime killing Cersei.
Oh yeah.
Wait, what is that?
I make that same prediction. So,
dude, yes.
I just feel like that is totally ungame related. And Roman, you're probably lost.
What's a Jaime and Cersei? What that is?
Let's not even get into it. But yeah. Okay. Anyway,
I'll roll with it.
Yeah, man. I think it's fun, you know, and with predictions are fun to make, and I think, you know, Game of Thrones is similar to the games world in the sense that it's still a living, breathing piece of art, piece of work. So the community can inform the direction of things. And I remember I was in a talk with Kevin Bruner, the president of Telltale, and he was talking about how they use data to like actually change the story. And he was talking about how like in The Walking Dead, their game The Walking Dead, they were trying to, I forget which character, it was like the college kid who was like really whiny and annoying. Mm-hmm. They were really trying to twist the story to get the players to hate this like college kid. And through the data and through the choices, they kept finding out that like no matter what this kid did, they would keep like picking to save him or picking like his side. And they were really trying to go for like 50-50 choices on a lot of things. And so what they did was the community informed how they wrote the game. And later on, they like gave this college kid like a terrible speech ratting, like chewing out the main character. And then like, of course, everyone picked to kill him. Right. And it's that sort of thing where it's like, I wonder if like things like Game of Thrones too, like if, I don't use my Twitter that much, but like if enough people are saying Jaime kills Cersei, are the writers going to go, oh man, like that's too predictable now. Like, let's change it up.
Oh, right. So they'll probably want to move away from what's trending in that consumer forum.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the power. That's the power that the gamers and consumers of media have nowadays, is that we can actively shape the content that we want. Mm-hmm. Look at EA and the Battlefront thing, like,
or Mass Effect, where they changed the story ending to part 3.
What?
Remember Mass Effect 3, where the actual ending was changed because of the outcry?
Exactly, dude. And I think that's exciting, man. That's so exciting. That's so much different than like, I don't know how old you guys were, but when I was growing up, it was just like cartridges, and like that was the game you got, or you got a VHS and that was the movie you got, and like deal with it. And if it didn't do well, they canceled it. And I think games used to be and nerdy things like equivalent to Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, that sort of thing was very side stream. But now it's mainstream. There's a game for everybody, and I think you don't even have to work in the industry. If you are an informed consumer and you're active in the community, you can make waves and you can dictate what the content is going to be that you want to see. And I feel like everyone listening to this or whatever, remember that you can go out there and don't be, a jerk about it, but, engage to the community and you will see things change, usually for the better. So nice. we got that, man.
Yeah, that's good. That is a good way to close, actually. Wow. I was going to ask you for one last piece of knowledge that you want to part with, but that's perfect.
Cool, man. That's absolutely I won't go on another 15-minute answer. So,
no, that's fine.
Well, I appreciate it. Roman and Victor, I appreciate you, showing the interest and chatting with me. This was a lot of fun, dude. So I wish you the best of luck on your podcast and your, Victor, your modeling, and Roman getting into the industry and all that. I wish you the best of luck.
I hope we can have you on again one day. One day
for
soon,
sure,
hopefully.
Dude.
Yeah, awesome. All right, guys, that was Alexei Ryan. Thank you so much for listening. If you have any questions, any comments, any concerns, feel free to email us at PAXPGamers@outlook.com. Send us a tweet on Twitter. Tweet, what the? Twitter. We can keep that in. It's fine. Nobody uses Twitter anymore, right? Except for millions of people. Or really anywhere you see this, whether it's SoundCloud or iTunes or anywhere you want. Give us a rating too if you liked it. Give us a thumbs up. Share it. We need all the people listening that we can get.
You'll most likely find us on any popular podcast app that you have on your phone. Just type in PAXP Gamers and we'll most likely pop up. So check us out.
At the bottom of the list.
At the bottom of the list. You'll do a little bit of scrolling, but hey, it's a good workout for the fingers.
There you go. All right. Thanks, guys.